So do you know what Strike Force 5 is?
No.
It sounds silly because it is. Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, John Oliver, and Seth Meyers have teamed up for a new podcast as their shows have gone dark during the writers' strike.
5 men, 1 opinion. Tune in for the most boring status
The
quo
whitest
podcast.
show on the internet.
Be prepared to be given milk toast. Nothing takes from unfunny retards.
You don't think they'll go beyond their normal shtick and since they're out on their own, that you don't think they'll risk those clauses in their multi 8-figure contracts?
No,
you think they'll just be the same boring motherfuckers?
Good little boys and say what they're told. And,
nothing too racy.
Nothing funny. Yeah, I will not be listening to Strike.
Maybe 9-figure. Those guys get paid like crazy. I don't understand how the value that's placed on those late night hosts. I don't get it because the numbers aren't.
I think it's a boomer thing. Who watches that shit?
Like you could find a guy on Twitch like right now who gets way better numbers than some guy that's doing late night with that one of those 8-figure contracts. I don't get it.
Oh yeah,
like, why is that money worth so much more? I mean,
there's still a lot of people who don't use streaming services and stuff. There's still a lot of people out there.
Is that true?
Whenever I see numbers, I think they're
Weird
like 80% bullshit, right? It's like we're comparing, say, the number of views a video gets to the number of concurrent live viewers a TV show gets and acting like that video got a lot more. That's horseshit. You look at the number of uniques throughout the broadcast and that number will go way, way higher.
I mean, do minutes watched.
You could do apples to apples on that, but I never see apples to apples comparison, which is
minutes
the core of my point.
Swamp them.
So recently, Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump did an interview together, and it broke like tons of records. This is the most viewed video ever.
They're lying about that. Don't jump on the red side because it helps you. They're lying about the numbers.
I agree, and that's kind of the point I was making. They're calling it maybe a 300 million view video. I'm not sure, and it's one of the Certainly, it hit 250 million views faster than any other video I've ever heard of in my life. And it's not real views. If you scroll past it, that's a view.
Its impressions are yes, exactly. Exactly. Thank you. It's just and I guarantee you, Elon put it in front of that many people's homepages. It's a complete farce of an idea. It's like counting pay-per-views because I can count. It's like, oh, did you watch UFC 400? Nah, but I heard about it. That works.
Yeah, I'm counting it. Yeah. So
it's the same thing when these TikTok.
When they say like this TV show is not very watched, I'm like, I don't know that Twitch live stream numbers are fairly being compared.
Yeah, it's the same thing when like you have these TikTok stars who have millions of followers, and then they'll go to a convention and have a meet and greet, and nobody shows up. You know what I mean? The views don't equate to actual following and actual stats when it comes to the real life situation.
TikTok seems like the most flagrant with that, as far as like absurd view totals and people not making any money and like, this someone with like 100,000 followers on TikTok or whatever. Oh, they got 40 million views on a video. Probably not. Really doubt it's 40 million legitimate start to finish views. So really, they need to do minutes watched. That's the actual. That would be a better equivocation of it. But when they have it set up like TikTok and Twitter, where it's like, do you know how many like videos I can give a view to just by scrolling down, like just through a page for a bit? It's like I didn't watch that video.
Minutes watched isn't even fair either.
If I just leave a video, there's a video. I have Twitter open right now. There's a video of a fucking turtle in like a nature post. Like that was served to me in the For You because I like animal stuff sometimes. How many views have I given this in the 40 minutes we've been doing the show? Like it's just running. It's just running on auto. That's probably like 12,000 views that it's going to get over the course of the show. Like that's not real. By the end of the show, 4 hours from now, I still won't have watched that whole thing. But it's still logging it. It's still counting it. It's definitely not apples to apples.
It's still Greg Gutfeld or whatever on Fox News at the top of like late night TV. It says he has 2.5 million views an episode, which seems pretty high.
Is that peak viewership claim?
With 2.5 million viewers, that's TV talk. That's how they put it.
Okay, so probably peak.
And then everybody else has like 1.5 million and like dwindling down. Looks like.
Interrupt for a second. Taylor, you interpret that number to be peak concurrent?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
If they're saying 2.5 million, I would say they're going for peak concurrent at the absolute tippity top moment of the broadcast. They had 2.5 million concurrent.
That's a lot, though.
It is a lot. And who knows, like, how many of them actually watched the whole program? How many of those are 1,000 TVs turned to CNN in airports? Like, there's no.
But what do you count that as? Well, hang on. That TV at the airport is one of the most powerful TVs in the world. It has to be, because forget those giant ones in Times Square. Nobody's looking. At the airport, though, you've got a captive fucking audience. I have sat and watched Fox News intently in airports for hours before,
because it's all
sometimes you're on the flight and you scroll through everything, and I'd rather watch Fox News than Ant-Man again. So it's Fox News. It is, you know. Like,
I don't think I've ever
seen
powerful
Fox
TVs
at the
airport. Now that I'm thinking about it,
you don't fly.
You're talking about the onboard TV, not in the airport itself.
Oh,
is that what you're talking about, Kyle?
Oh, in the airport. No, in the airport.
Oh, really? Okay, I've only seen CNN in the airports.
Yeah, maybe like NBC or something. I'll see something.
Yeah, and the Delta terminals in Atlanta is definitely Fox News.
Probably Spirit. No.
Okay. Either way, though, there is, like, you know, kind of a metric fight between legacy media and new media, because both of them want to act as though they are leaps and bounds ahead of the other. And you know, there are points to both, and it depends on it. All of it comes down to the demographic you're targeting anyway. If you're targeting a demographic that's in, like, if you're running pharmaceutical ads and you're Pfizer, you're going to run on CNN and Fox and NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, because the viewership of those channels is so wildly old, and your market that, like, of course,
I would wager that they are very similarly valued. The 1.5 million that Jimmy Kimmel or whoever can get every night is about equally valued to whatever XQC does. I say that because I don't know what Jimmy Kimmel's contract is, but I bet it's about $80 million or something for the next decade. That's what XQC's contract is too. It's $100 million. You know,
as far as like pushing a product, though, I would bet dollars to donuts that XQC could drive more purchase.
You should invest in him, though, because the market has spoken. It's $100 million. Exactly.
Yeah, Taylor, I'm thinking about that. So I don't know XQC. I can't comment on him, but I'm so influenced by influencers. If they do the thing I do, flying, motorcycles, fish, or whatever, I look at the things they chose to figure out what's good. And I know that that's a flawed way. Some of them are sponsored, etc.
I disagree. Okay. You have to be careful, but here's my thought process, and this is one of the things that happened with YouTube in general. There used to be a time where you could be the toughest guy that you'd ever heard of, or you could be the best guy at softball that anybody that you knew had ever heard of. And that time disappeared when YouTube became a thing. Because now the best guys at softball, all of the guys who thought they were the best uploaded videos, and the guys that were the best saw those videos and said, "Poor shit, how much does a camera cost?" And eventually those guys got cameras and started making videos. And now it just keeps propagating until you can find the best fucking softball player on the world from now on YouTube. You can find him because he's getting paid to do it. And it might be a good idea to see what kind of bat he uses or what kind of balls he likes to practice or because he's so accessible. I can't get Tucker Carlson. I can't get Jimmy Kimmel. They won't talk to me. But I can go get that guy that plays softball, the thing I love the most. I mean, I can join his Patreon. I can get in his comments. I can be like, "Hey, man, how did you get so good with that? Like, how are you seeing that ball? Whatever the fuck you want to know." And he'll tell you. That's incredibly valuable. And so I agree. Influencers influence me because they're often the best of the best that are also kind of with it and hip. I don't care what some guy on a mountain's doing.
Regular commercials don't impact me because I don't see them very much. But hypothetically, if I saw Charles Barkley telling me which deodorant was good, it would have a minimal effect on me. However, I don't know who's good at football right now, but if the wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks chose these gloves, dude, I don't care if he's getting paid to use those gloves. He will only use gloves that he thinks highly of. He'll just get paid by someone else to use them. True. So the fact that he chose those to pay him means something to me. And if I was trying to catch balls, I'd grab them.
Another key difference that like jumps out at me between like a Jimmy Kimmel or like XQC, since that's who we're using, is
use Amaranth instead because I get to picture her then.
Amaranth. Okay, Amaranth.
Wait. Make it Finster.
Okay, Finster. We'll friend of the show. Friend of the show. Shout out Finster.
Because Amaranth,
we know you're thinking about Finster all fucking
because
day.
Amaranth has a $100 million deal too. It's then it's equivalent.
Finster shits on 1 million.
Yeah,
I saw some dude drop 30 grand on Finster and one pop the other day. Just went boom, 30K.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
I did it anonymously. I'd rather you not talk about
You're
it.
that chic.
The thing you need to keep in mind about like the influencer driving stuff too is someone like Finster, who's a big influencer, Amaranth, XQC, whoever, they have like a bottom up growth pattern. Like if I go on Finster's channel and I start promoting myself and I go, hey, I'm Taylor. I'm on Finster, just sold me his channel. I'm going to send you to use Lock and Load, this product that we made. No one gives a fuck about me. Everyone's going to unsubscribe. Everybody's going to tune out because I'm jumping onto a platform that exists solely by Finster pushing it. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, if I was hired as the new late show host, like Jimmy Kimmel is not the late show. Anyone they want to plug in there is the late show because most people who watch it are watching it habitually. It's because they've done it for years. No matter who the host is, they're going to tune in and watch.
At least give them a try.
At least give them a try. And so that's why you can have this revolving door of these talk show hosts through these programs because they're not unique, like in their own driving way. They didn't really grow it. They came in and they're sitting in the seat. Meanwhile, you give me XQC's channel, everyone unsubscribes right away. They don't give two fucks about me because I can't use his platform in that way.
Why does that matter though? They're both guys are just as hireable to.
No, as far as driving sales, I'm talking about. Like you're going to be more likely to do it from someone who garnered a fan base over time. They built it. It's revolving around them. They are the crux of it, as opposed to, oh, we're taking Seth Meyers and we're replacing him with Jimmy Kimmel. That does not impact ratings.
Is really interesting to me. This like, is it the platform or is it the person? And so everyone knows I'm like a news and politics junkie, a stats and stories politics junkie. And Tucker Carlson lost his job recently, and it will be interesting to see if he follows the path of the people before him, like Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly, who kind of became a lot less relevant, if not irrelevant, or is Tucker bigger than Fox? And at first, it seemed like Tucker was. Now it seems like Fox is, but the score's not posted yet. We're going to see how this plays out.
Yeah. Like Tucker is definitely a better example of someone with like a seemingly organic, like big group around him than Bill O'Reilly. Because when Bill O'Reilly got nixed, like he went immediately into irrelevancy. Like he was bolstered by Fox News. No one is like so excited to get the new Bill O'Reilly book for the most part, unless it's pushed on a platform like Fox News. Like,
so actually, it's funny. You might not know, Tucker immediately was this big deal when he went on Twitter, and then his views just tanked until he interviewed Trump, which is probably more of a
Trump thing.
But that's a Trump
expose
thing.
on how Trump is, a newsmaker than what Tucker is. And Tucker also wrote a book, and it's not selling. And they're acting like it's a big conspiracy to suppress his sales. But I think really he's just not on TV right now. And
yeah. But most of these like politicians, most of their like books don't sell a ton. Like donors will buy a pallet of books. Like that's how that shit actually works.
Yeah. And that gets them on the New York Times list. And then and there's even a code on the New York Times bestseller list to tell the reader that they think that, like, while this is the fourth most sold book, we think it's not organic. I forget what it is. If it's a fire or something type of thing.
And the amount sold to get on that list, I think is pretty low.
No, they are allowed to put any book they want on the New York Times bestseller list. It doesn't correlate with overall sales. It doesn't.
So what does it correlate with?
It's not. It is a subjective. It's a subjective list of what they consider the best seller.
I've heard that before.
It's not based on sales.
No, it's not like this is the number one book of the week. This is the number two book of the week. Like, no, it's like they can make anything a New York Times bestseller.
That doesn't seem believable.
But it's like music, right? It's like the Billboard Top 100, even though that consists of how many, records, or streams, whatever artists have. you still need to, convince radio stations to play certain stuff to increase that number. So almost everything when it comes to that can be played with, right? It depends how much power the record labels have or the book publishers have.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just about, like with music, with books, all these things, it's about framing. Like if you frame something as wildly popular, New York Times bestseller list, you don't think that means this sold a minimum of 5,000 books. Because there are millions of people who can.
I'm reading about it, and it almost. I'm not an expert. I'm only as good as this source. But it seems like what Taylor's saying is true, but not the whole story. For example, like if Taylor's book outsells mine by a couple thousand copies, but mine sold across Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Real Life, something else, then they might give me the boost above Taylor's book, who all the sales came from one source, and it looks a little crooked. So it's not straight up. The point of thing I read is not straight up based on who sells the most. They look at some other things like diversity of sales to rank them.
I mean, that I would argue that's just a way to kind of muddy it. Like they're saying, yeah, it's not really about how many books are selling. Really, it's called the New York Times bestseller list. Yeah, it doesn't have to. You just have to sell 5,000 books. Okay, there's 10,000 YouTubers right now who can do that. Well, but they don't have distribution in Barnes & Noble. Like who? James Comey, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, like these big, powerful people whose books you want to push.
I can make an argument on both sides. Like on one hand, shouldn't it just be sales and, stop complicating it? On the other hand, we're trying to do an organic list here and we look at sales across the board and not just from one source. Maybe, I don't know.
I think if they were doing an organic list, they would just say total sales. Then they're not going to get the books on the list that they want to promote.
Maybe. I started looking into this 60 seconds ago. I'm not prepared to debate.
That's how I am with so many things. I'm like, oh yes, well, see, you're 2 layers deep now, and I'm lost. Like.